3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place show yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Moist Mike and Stuart Kovacs along the other way. And we're rocking and rolling all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Stopping by. He is off to the ACC championship game in 2 weeks. Jeff Brohm will join us, the head football coach at Louisville, going home in year number one. It's been sensational. They have a big game this weekend up against Kentucky, coming off a big victory up against Miami. He'll stop by at 5:20 p.m. Eastern time, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. We got to start, though, in the NFL, as Week 11 will conclude tonight with the Philadelphia Eagles going to Arrowhead Stadium to go up against Patrick Mahomes in the Kansas City. How about those Chiefs? But before we get to that game and before we get to that matchup, which we'll preview later on, we got to go back to the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers game from yesterday. On Friday, to end out the show, I went on a fiery rant explaining that if you see the Pittsburgh Steelers get outscored, even with how great the Browns defense is, but also with how great the Steelers defense is, when you have two similar teams where the defenses are the strength and the offenses are just absolutely putrid. But when Pittsburgh doesn't show up offensively in this game, that should be it for Matt Canada. And in the game yesterday, they are down 10-0. Not that their offense really did anything outside of the Jaylen Warren big run, but you get the game to 10-10. And right at the end of the game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's only having a second career start, goes down the field, somewhat gets hot late, and puts the ball in field goal position where Dustin Hopkins hits what was a gimme for the game winner. That should be the nail in the coffin for Matt Canada. But let me be clear when I go through that I'm not putting all the blame on Matt Canada. Matt Canada, though, should not have a job because it's the definition of insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So I'm not exonerating Mike Tomlin. I'm not letting Kenny Pickett off the hook. But you know Mike Tomlin isn't going anywhere right now. And you know, at least for this season, Kenny Pickett isn't going anywhere right now. But you need to do something. Because doing nothing makes absolutely, positively zero sense. And it's the definition of, quite frankly, jackassery. And even though Mike Tomlin is a really good coach, and I'm not sitting here advocating for Mike Tomlin to be fired, because if Mike Tomlin was fired, he'd be scooped up by another team in an instant. But when you are a coach of an organization that is successful, an organization that is patient, and an organization that doesn't make hasty decisions, and there's a reason there really only been 3 coaches that anybody knows about, you still have to find a way to meet the standard. And in the last few years, what we've seen from the Steelers towards the end of Big Ben, when the offense is cooking, the defense stinks. Now, for the last few years, the defense has been cooking and the offense has zero identity. So it is on Mike Tomlin, who is really the CEO of the Steelers right now. He needs to make the change. And I said this on Friday, and I'll say it again. I don't expect any change to occur, but it doesn't mean I need to sit here and be silent. It doesn't mean I need to sit here with my hands underneath my tuchus and not say anything. No. I'm going to use my platform. I'm going to use my voice. And we got to hold Mike Tomlin accountable, because the Steelers used to be this proud, successful, winning organization. And I know Mike Tomlin has never finished below 500 as a head coach, which is remarkable. But finishing above 500, it's expected in Pittsburgh. It's a requirement in Pittsburgh. So just because you finish above 500 doesn't mean you get off the hook, doesn't mean we need to give you a pass. And it speaks to how good of a coach Mike Tomlin is, that without zero offense pretty much for the last few years, this team has continued that. And they'll continue it this year at 6-4. But what are you doing to try to put yourself in a better position? That's my problem with Mike Tomlin right now. And if it's loyalty, if it's stubbornness, if it's stupidity, whatever it is, or maybe choice D, all the above, it's got to change. Because we all know you're a damn good football coach. We all know you're one of the more respected people in the NFL. But sometimes changes occur even to guys that are highly successful and guys that people know will get scooped up in a second, even if the Steelers were to part ways. Like, we are talking this year for the last few months, and I know Belichick is polarizing. I know people don't like Bill Belichick. But everyone is ready for the Patriots to move on or trade Bill Belichick. So if that could happen to Bill, who has been employed by the New England Patriots as their head coach for 24 years and has won 6 Super Bowls and has been to an additional 3 as the head coach, it could happen to Mike Tomlin, who has a ring, who has been to another Super Bowl. And the facts are with Mike Tomlin's Steelers, even though I'm a fan, even though I believe he's a good coach, the facts are he has not won a playoff game since the 2016 season. That's a long time. And for some organizations, and I know Stu kind of looks at me and goes, is it really a long time? Lions fans will say, we haven't won a playoff game since 1991. So I understand that every organization is held to a different standard. But the Steelers are in a better class than the Raiders. The Steelers are in a better class than the Lions, even though this looks like it's the Lions' year, and they're starting to display that they're America's team. We'll get to that later. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, not winning a playoff game since the 2016 season is ridiculous. It's a flat-out joke. It's unacceptable. It's inexcusable. So even though I am a Mike Tomlin fan, the pressure is going to get turned up a little bit on Mike Tomlin because the easy, obvious, and clear-cut scapegoat needs to be getting rid of Matt Canada. But for whatever the reasons are, Mike Tomlin's a good-looking man. He's in shape. So I can't even make the cheesy joke that maybe Matt Canada has embarrassing photos of Mike Tomlin. But for whatever the reasons are, Tomlin still employs Matt Canada. And it's not only Matt Canada, it's also Kenny Pickett. But I'm not going to demand today that Kenny Pickett shouldn't start next week, shouldn't play for the rest of the season. You give him the rest of the season, and I'm going to assume that nothing really changes because Canada stinks and Pickett stinks. And then at the end of the year, you say goodbye to both of them. If you want to keep Pickett on the roster, fine. But you need to make sure that you have someone else starting at quarterback. Because it's clear that Matt Canada isn't that dude. We've known that for a while. And now, even though he has 7 game-winning drives attached to his resume and he hasn't completed 2 full seasons yet in the NFL, it's clear that Kenny Pickett is not a great quarterback. He's not even a good quarterback. There's a reason there was only one quarterback that year that won in the first round, and Kenny Pickett had to wait as long as he did. Because it shows you how many other teams in their scouting didn't have a belief even in Kenny Pickett at that time. It's a nice story, him going to Pittsburgh, all that stuff, getting drafted by the Steelers. But if Mike Tomlin is serious about winning, if Mike Tomlin wants to win a playoff game, which he hasn't done since 2016, Mike Tomlin wants to get the Steelers back to winning playoff games and winning a Super Bowl, he's got to go back to the drawing board this offseason. You need a new offensive coordinator, and next year, you need a new quarterback because you have a championship defense, but you have the farthest thing from a championship offense. You have, quite frankly, a JV9 offense right now. So we go from the problems with the Steelers to then the team that they just played. That's the Cleveland Browns. Where for Cleveland Browns fans, you should be thrilled. You should be jumping up and down today like fat kids in a candy store. Because those wins, after what Big Ben Roethlisberger did to you for 15 years or so, did not come a whole lot. And to get a win up against the Steelers, I don't care if it was clean, I don't care if it was ugly, it's very important for Cleveland. And give credit to Kevin Stefanski. A lot of people had him on the hot seat before the year. A lot of people thought it was a foregone conclusion he would lose his job at the end of the season. He's gotten nothing out of his quarterback in Deshaun Watson. And we know Watson is now out for the season. But with a phenomenal defense led by Myles Garrett, who could make a case for the MVP this year, the Cleveland Browns are 7-3. That's a heck of an accomplishment. The Cleveland Browns are not only 7-3, They are 7-3 without Nick Chubb, who's their best offensive player, and then also without their quarterback that they guaranteed all that money to in Deshaun Watson. That is wild. And it just shows you that the Browns right now, who are in a similar position as the Steelers, but they're in a better position. Because the Browns, with really not much from their quarterback until the end, found a way to get the job done. But if you're Cleveland, even though you should be thrilled with what transpired yesterday, I think you got to make one phone call. Because the Cleveland Browns, if they had a quarterback, they would be a bona fide Super Bowl contender. And when you look at Cleveland, even though the Dorian Thompson-Robinson final drive was fun, and we know this defense is kick-ass, and we know this offensive line is good, you know Amari Cooper is a really underrated wide receiver still. With all those things, you just have a quarterback, and if you had a quarterback, this could be a team, and this isn't crazy to say, that could be in the Super Bowl this year. Because the AFC is wide open. Chiefs are damn good. Ravens are damn good. But after that, there's not a third team that has taken the baton and really have run with it and showed that they belong in the top three conversation in the AFC amongst the NFL elite and the AFC elite. And that's why, I put myself in Andrew Berry's shoes. You got to make this phone call. Because just bringing in Joe Flacco on the practice squad, that doesn't really move the needle. I saw what Joe Flacco did last year with the Jets. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. Good to have a body in there, but it's not going to be an effective body. You got to call Tom Brady. You have to. Brady is the greatest winner the NFL has ever seen. Brady is the greatest quarterback this league has ever seen. And he still has good football left in him. You know he's still addicted to the game, and Brady never turns down a winning situation. And as crazy as this seems, the NFL that was the NFL the 20 years Tom Brady played in it, Cleveland wasn't a winning destination. But now they are. And I legitimately think, even though he has not played this year, and who knows what kind of shape he's in, but he's the GOAT, that if Tom Brady walked into the Browns facility tomorrow, he could win a Super Bowl this year. He could be playing on Super Bowl Sunday in the middle of February in Las Vegas. Because this Browns team has enough on offense, they have a good line, and they have a championship caliber defense. I don't know if Brady would say yes, but Andrew Berry, if you haven't made the phone call yet, that is a massive and that is an egregious mistake. Because dangle football in front of Tom Brady and try to see if Tom Brady really says no. Let's see how retired Tom Brady is. And for Brady, you can't lose here. You go to Cleveland and you win a playoff game, we already know where you are in the NFL, but the Browns fans would be thrilled. You go win 2 playoff games, they wouldn't know what to do with themselves. You win 3 and get to a Super Bowl, they'd be doing somersaults in the street. And if you somehow win 4 playoff games, and you know Brady could do so, and bring a Lombardi trophy to the Browns, not that Tom Brady's resume need any enhancements, but we know what he did in New England with those 6 Super Bowls. We know he won one in Tampa. But imagine what that would do in Cleveland. Imagine that. Quite frankly, it'd be bigger than LeBron's championship with the Cavaliers. And that was wild. Absolutely wild. Down 3-1, one of my favorite championships of all time with that comeback. And the whole, Cleveland, this is for you. Imagine Brady on the podium in a Cleveland Browns uniform. Cleveland, this is for you. It would be spectacular. And I don't have a dog in a fight. I don't have a team to root for this year. My team's out of it. I'm rooting for the Pats to tank. Brady gets back into the game, goes to Cleveland. I'm okay with it. The Browns for years were losers. I'm okay if they want to be winners with TB12. But let him at least say no. Don't just assume he'll say no. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Should the Browns call Tom Brady? I think yes. We will come on back. We'll do 3 college football takes on the other side, off and running. Very busy Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show, but where else? CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
You could argue, out of all the teams in the NFL, the most valuable player to his team and to his franchise is Joe Burrow. So as long as Burrow's on the field, this team has the look of a Super Bowl contender. This team has the look of a force and a dominant team, not only inside the AFC, but the entirety of the NFL. And now that evaporates into the thin air because Joe Burrow's done for the season.
Here's Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. And you can listen to Westwood One tonight for the call of the Philadelphia Eagles going to Kansas City for a Super Bowl rematch with the Kansas City Chiefs to conclude Week 11. So we opened up the show talking about the Cleveland Browns. Really good victory for them yesterday up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I look at this Browns team, even without Nick Chubb, even without Deshaun Watson, they continue to impress. They are 7-3. They have a championship defense. And even though Dorian Thompson-Robinson came alive late, you got to go get a quarterback. And Joe Flacco isn't enough. Just bringing him on the practice squad. This was 6-7 years ago when some would argue, is Joe Flacco elite? 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Then maybe you have a different case. Maybe you feel good about bringing in Joe Flacco. But Joe Flacco, many years removed from being a really good quarterback in this league, he ain't going to cut it. And long-term, for the rest of the season, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, my college pal, P.J. Walker, not going to cut it. And I would look big, I would dream big, and I would go and try to acquire TB12 and try to lure him one last time out of retirement. Yeah, you could unretire twice. We've seen it happen in sports. And Brady with the whole Raiders thing, that's not official. Even though he's right in the ear of Mark Davis, he's not officially a minority owner yet. So there's nothing preventing TB12 besides himself from quarterbacking the Cleveland Browns. And if they get Tom Brady, they just go from a good story to a legit Super Bowl contender. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's go to John in South Carolina next up on CBS Sports Radio. John, what's happening?
I'm ashamed of myself. I was born in Cleveland, watched the Browns before the Super Bowls win championships. LeBron bought me the one, but you and your idea, every Cleveland fan out there, get on X, Twitter, whatever. I'm 70. I don't even know how to do it. And no, really, Twitter Tom Brady, Twitter the general manager of the Browns. Make them somehow say that they didn't ask him or they did, and have Tom say, no, I won't or I will. Publicly, even if they don't offer him the contract, public opinion, he becomes like John Glenn. You talk about Cleveland fans flipping and doing somersaults. He could be elected governor, senator, just like John Glenn was. That is such a good idea. And, who knows what kind of shape he's in. But he should have it in his blood. And you got a team there, that defense. Oh, yeah, I love that idea, man. Love it. I was going to talk about the Browns getting Joe Flacco, hoping he had, 1 or 2 games left in him. But you're probably right. He's almost 40, or I think he's close to 40.
I think he's 38, yeah. Flacco, but close enough. He's been irrelevant for the last few years. He's not Tom Brady when he just gets better and better with age, like fine wine, when Brady was already well into his 40s and is now, I think, 45 or 44 he just turned in August for TB12. So I would give it a shot. I would. I'd call him up and see if he could want to come on in and help deliver Cleveland a championship. And it's only a one-year thing. Deshaun Watson coming back next year on the fully guaranteed contract. For Brady, it's a commitment from, not even week 12. You don't even on the field for this Sunday, but from week 13 and on. And you've set yourself up in nice position at 7-3. Just go win 3 more games here, and you could treat the second half of the season pretty much like preseason. And look at what Tampa Bay Brady got to Tampa Bay. They did not have a great team in the regular season. They were not this force in the regular season. They didn't even win their own division. But come playoff time, with that defense and their similarities from the Browns to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we know that defense is legit. It's championship caliber. And sure, the Browns don't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Rob Gronkowski and Leonard Fournette. Like, that Bucs team was really damn good, and they also got Antonio Brown and won a Super Bowl. But you got more than enough there behind a really damn good offensive line. Enough at the wide receiving position. Brady and David Njoku would have a good connection as well in the tight end spot. And you kind of plug and play at the running back spot. And who knows? You bring Brady in, you see who else pops up out of the woodworks that wants to come out of retirement or is a free agent right now. Or maybe they start begging their agent, hey, I'm on this terrible team. Get me released. I want to go to Cleveland and be a part of the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know if Brady would say yes. I would probably lean that he would say no. But I don't know if that's 100%. And if it's not a call, at least, that Andrew Berry has made yet, well, then Andrew Berry is just not running that organization the right way. Because you have to leave every stone unturned here. And you need to try everything in your power to get the right quarterback in for the final 2 months of the season, to maybe extend your season into 3 months and go on a little bit of a playoff run. Let's go to Justin in Ohio. Next up on CBS Sports Radio, 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Justin, what do you got for me?
Hey, what's up? I was just calling to say there's not a lot of quarterbacks out there, but I haven't heard Cam Newton's name been thrown out there yet. And I know he hasn't had the best rap sheet since he left Carolina, but I feel like he has enough talent to take that team where they need to go. Just enough explosiveness to get Amari Cooper the ball and the Njoku the ball and still have a run threat on the ground. They need to make good decisions, being that he has experience being at the Super Bowl. And that's all I really had.
Yeah, Justin, so I'm a fan of Cam, but Cam can't throw the football anymore. Cam thinks he could still be a top 32 quarterback in the league, and I know there's some embarrassing performances around the league, but Tommy DeVito in a few starts just threw for 3 touchdown passes against the Commanders, and I don't think anything of Tommy DeVito. I don't know if Cam could walk into that Giants situation against the Commanders and throw for 3 touchdown passes. I saw Cam for an entire season in New England. He was shot then he goes back to Carolina. Panthers fans were doing backflips. They were going crazy. Oh, we get Cam back. This is going to be wonderful. Did a nice job in that game running the football up against the Arizona Cardinals. But after that, he couldn't complete a pass. So Cam's body, unfortunately, just is not physically able to hold up anymore. And if you're going to go into those options, I just don't see what Cam would bring to this football team. Because Cam, from a physical standpoint, doesn't really have anything left in the tank. Now, if you want to run him 20 times a game, okay, but you need a quarterback that has the ability to throw the football. In the year of 2023, we are far removed from the days of 2014, 2015, when Cam was lighting the league on fire and taking the league by storm. Let's go to Chuck in North Carolina, next up on CBS Sports Radio. Chuck, what's happening?
Hey, Zach. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing wonderful. What do you got, Chuck?
Good. Couple things. On the Brady thing, on the Cleveland sites, the Brown sites, fans have been calling for Brady since probably an hour after Deshaun got injured. They've also talked about Phillip Rivers and possibilities like that. I really believe, Zach, that Andrew has probably made that call, and I'm assuming that he got turned down and he doesn't want to broadcast that. I can't see him not having made that call already. And one other thing you're talking about with the Browns, you forgot to mention that they are without both of their starting tackles on the offensive line.
Yeah, with Jedrick Wills getting hurt.
I'm sorry?
With Jedrick Wills going down, what was that, last week, I'm pretty sure, or 2 weeks ago?
Conklin went down at the beginning of the season, and then what's his name? I forget their left tackle. He's no good anyway. But, they picked up Christian, I think, off, wasn't it New England's practice squad? And he's come in and done good. And then that kid from Ohio State, the rookie, stepped right in as a starting right tackle and has done really a phenomenal job when you consider he's gone up against Watt and couple of the other great defensive ends, and has held his own. So he's got a good future. But it's pretty amazing what they've done with really Watson has played 2 good games since he's signed with the Browns.
And that may even be a stretch, because when you're playing good games and you've looked like crap, then what we call a good game is not really that good of a game for what the old Deshaun Watson standards were. The Browns have a heck of a team. They really do. They have a lot of talent, and even without Nick Chubb, even without Deshaun Watson, if they could just go out there and get a legit quarterback, it's not crazy to say that that's a team that could go on a dangerous run this year already at 7-3. But you already passed the trade deadline. You go into this pool of like, all right, Phillip Rivers, Drew Brees, who hasn't played in 3 years. But Brady, this is first year out of the league. And if you know there's anyone that could walk into any situation behind a good O-line, even with injuries, and dominate with the great defense, it's Tom Brady. What are you shaking your head about, by the way, Santa? What do you know about winning football? You've never seen a winning football team in your life.
Well, first of all, neither of you without cheating. I mean, a bunch of cheaters out there.
Oh, you're such a loser. You're like a little mosquito.
But you want to say you don't know if it's 100% chance that it's 100% chance that Brady says no. There is
Why?
a 0.0000% chance that Tom Brady says yes.
This dude never wanted to retire. If it wasn't because his marriage was on life support, he would have never retired the first time.
He's done, and if he's going to come back, he's not coming back to the Cleveland Browns.
Where's he going? Where's he going to then?
If when Aaron Rodgers went down 4 plays into the Jets
hates the Jets, and they have no
line. It doesn't matter. He almost went to the
line.
Dolphins. He doesn't care about going in divisions. He doesn't care about going
different. Totally
it
different.
Forget about how he feels about the Jets. He doesn't care. If he has a chance to win a Super Bowl and go up against Belichick twice in a season and go against Belichick and prove,
Him and Bill
hey,
were
I'm
crying
the best.
a few weeks ago on that,
It doesn't
Let's
matter.
Go podcast.
It doesn't matter. He has nothing to do with the Jets.
On this.
There is a zero. If he were to go back, maybe like if Brock Purdy got hurt, go to the 49ers or to the Raiders in Vegas. There is a 0.0% chance.
He retired and said he didn't want to go to the Raiders. That retirement was him saying,
and
I don't want to go to the
Cleveland
Raiders.
Browns
I'd rather
is where
own him.
he wants to go. The Cleveland Browns?
Okay.
I'm a Jets fan, and I'm embarrassed for that organization.
But that's because you haven't adapted to what the Cleveland Browns are in 2023.
They're the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, they're a 7-3 football team.
He's not going to
they're
go
better than your trash Jets
in Cleveland.
Why not? The guy played in Foxborough. He didn't even know where it was when he got drafted.
It. That's why he went to Tampa.
That's a bunch of bull crap. He was there for 20-something years.
Yes,
Samper.
and if he could have left and gone down to Tampa 5 years earlier, he would have. He doesn't want to be in the cold weather in December anymore.
Here's what you're missing.
He's 40-something years old.
Missing.
He doesn't want to handle the cold weather.
Here's what you're missing. Just be quiet. Listen, you'll learn something here for a second. Tom Brady is addicted to winning. He only would want to go to a winning situation. When he left the Patriots, he realized, oh, the Bucs have a good offensive line. Oh, the Bucs have Mike Evans. Oh, the Bucs have Chris Godwin. Oh, I could take control of this organization and get Antonio Brown and Rob Gronkowski. Oh, the Bucs have this great defense. He went to a winning situation. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you saying if he didn't come back for the Jets have no one on the offensive line. They could put your body in place of Mekhi Becton, and it maybe would be more effective, and you're about like 5'5" and 150 pounds soaking wet. The Browns have a legit O-line. The Browns have a great defense. The Browns have Amari Cooper. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but this idea, like I'm high on something for suggesting it, they're a good organization. They're 7-3. They haven't had a quarterback all year.
You just said? The Cleveland Browns are a good organization?
This year.
They're a good team, but they're not a good organization.
This year, they're a good organization. They're 7-3
they
with crap
Deshaun Watson
on the
$230 million of guaranteed money. They are not a good organization.
You're not listening. In the year of 2023, the Cleveland Browns have had nothing at the quarterback position. Nothing.
Yes,
Zero.
Being a good team is different than being a good organization.
Zero. Like the number of Super Bowls that you have seen in your lifetime. They've gotten nothing. Nada. Zero. Zilch out of the quarterback position. And they're still 7-3. And you look at that like they're the ugly, redheaded stepchild that has a bunch of warts on their face. And they're terrible because they've been dog crap for the last 20 years. In 2023... you want to dangle a carrot in front of Brady and say maybe you could come on back? Better option than the Jets. Better option than any other team that has gone down with injuries.
Better option than the Jets in week 1 and the Browns in week 12?
The Jets don't have an offensive line. When Brady doesn't have an offensive line, he gets the crap beaten out of him. It's the only way you beat him.
So Joe Burrow went down. Why wouldn't the Bengals make more sense? Why wouldn't
Bengals
the
are
Jets
fair.
make more sense? Why wouldn't
Because the Jets don't have an offensive
Vegas
line.
Raiders make more sense? Why wouldn't the Vikings make more sense?
the Raiders
They can
suck.
play indoors with the Vikings. He's not going to go play in Cleveland for
He
5
played
weeks.
in Foxborough.
Yes, and he's 40-something years old, and he doesn't
Who
want to play in the
cares?
cold weather anymore. There's a 0% chance that he would go back to the Browns. 0.00. Right? If Stafford went down, maybe he goes to the Rams or the 49ers. He's not going to go and play in freaking Cleveland.
You make it you make it as if the Cleveland Browns suck. They do not suck. They're one of the best teams in football this year.
Yeah.
They're 7-3.
Very, very good team. It is an awful organization in a cold city that Tom Brady will not want to attach his name to. 0.0% chance that Tom Brady comes out. I would literally give you my house, my leg, and my baby.
I don't know if we want your house.
If he came out to the Browns.
You want me to be a father now?
You could have all of it. You could have the whole world.
Seems like Samter just wanted to
Bank
take over
account,
responsibility.
shoes, it doesn't matter. All of it is yours. If Tom Brady plays for the Cleveland
What are you
Browns
telling me that
in
we don't know
2023.
of? Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We'll do 3 college football takes when we return. We will push that back to 5 minutes. But first, with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here is a man that actually knows what he's talking about. It's nice to be working with someone that knows what they're talking about.
Stu?
Oh, well, I could also throw Stu in there, too. Here he is, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And this report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. Football fans get a treat right before the holidays as the Chiefs host the Eagles in a Super Bowl rematch. Both teams are poised to make another run, with Philly coming in at 8-1. Kansas City is currently 7-2. The Chiefs' defense usually gets overlooked because of their high-powered offense led by perennial MVP candidate Patrick Mahomes, but Chris Jones said this might be the best unit he's ever been a part of.
Overall, I still think we can get so much better. So far, so good. As the best overall defense, I mean, it's still halfway through the season. For me to say that now we end up at that last, it doesn't even matter. So I think we take it one game at a time.
The Jets have reportedly named Tim Boyle their starting quarterback this week. The Braves have signed Reynaldo Lopez to a 3-year deal. Lance Lynn returns to St. Louis on a 1-year deal. And college basketball right now, the Maui Classic at the half. 7th-ranked Tennessee leads Syracuse 30-25. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb, ZACHGELB, using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Very nice of Moist Mike to apologize to me during the break. He thought he was out of line in that last segment, and he said that his take was the definition of just stupidity. So it takes a big man to apologize, so I respect that out of Moist Mike from just his ridiculous takes. But anyway, I'm sure he won't have any response to that. So let's get to some onside, offside right now.
I wonder what number Tom Brady would wear in Cleveland. Anyway, after
12.
Maybe.
Whatever he wants. They'd give him the keys to the city.
Yeah, that was sarcasm. After pulling Zach Wilson late in their loss to the Bills, the Jets decided to keep the former number 2 overall pick on the bench, and will start Tim Boyle this week against the Dolphins. So onside, offside, Zach Wilson will go down as an all-time bust on the level of Ryan Leaf and Jamarcus Russell.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. This dude is known for his teammates can't standing his guts last year, even though it has changed this year, and talking himself out of quickly getting benched And also his play has been terrible. And the best thing that he's known for is that supposedly, allegedly, maybe not, he slept with like his mother's hot friend. So if that's the best thing he's known for, which is not a bad thing, it means his football career was an absolute joke. And to be the number 2 overall pick, and for this team to just keep on going back to the well with you, even though he was benched today, is just insanity. But yeah, this is an all-time bust like Ryan Leaf and Jamarcus Russell. So I will go onsides there. Because there are a lot of punchlines here to the Zach Wilson story too. And they're fun punchlines as well. Where like the Ryan Leaf story was never fun. Jamarcus Russell didn't study. And Zach Wilson, right, kind of have the low-hanging fruit jokes that we can make.
The Broncos' Kareem Jackson served a 2-game suspension for illegal targeting hits and, in his first game back yesterday, launched himself headfirst into the helmet of Vikings quarterback Josh Dobbs. After the game, Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell said there should have been a flag.
In the moment, coming from the second level the way he did, it seemed like a pretty direct helmet-to-helmet type hit, but I'm sure they saw it differently.
So onside, offside, the NFL should suspend Jackson again for targeting.
Easy offside for me. I'm not saying that I advocate these specific hits, but when I watch the game last night, the refs didn't see it on the field. Now, that's not the only thing where you go, okay, a flag shouldn't be thrown. But it wasn't until the TV and the replay showed you it where you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best hit in the world. But when you're watching it live, I didn't think it was egregious. And I don't know what else he's supposed to do. You know, it's so tough with the placement of the cabeza. When you're going to make a tackle, I didn't look at that and say, oh my goodness gracious, we need to go suspend Kareem Jackson. So the NFL should suspend Jackson again for targeting. I would go offside on that one.
Offside.
The 49ers are rolling and averaging over 30 points a game in their last 2 wins, but lost all-pro safety Talanoa Hufanga.
Talanoa Hufanga.
Yes, no,
what a great name.
And then as soon as I saw it, it just slipped over. Hufanga for the rest of the season with his ACL injury.
Sam had a few pops before the show.
Talanoa Hufanga. Onside, offside. Losing Hufanga is a major blow to the Niners' Super Bowl chances.
So he's an incredible player. He's a phenomenal player. But I can't say it's a major blow because I still think the 49ers have a heck of a team. And the 49ers told me all offseason that if they just had Brock Purdy in the NFC title game, they would have got to the Super Bowl. So still having Brock Purdy upright is the biggest thing for the 49ers, I guess, according to the 49ers. So not that you want to lose Hufanga for the season. It's terrible. He's a phenomenal player and really has ridiculous hair. And I love his hair as well. It's kind of Palomalu-like. It's awesome. So he's a phenomenal football player. It stinks losing him, but I still think they have everything right in front of them. I do believe the Eagles are still better, but I don't think this makes me say, okay, the Niners now can't win a Super Bowl. So I would go offside on that one.
Offside. Tonight's Monday Night Football matchup is a rematch of the Super Bowl and a potential preview of this year's big game as the 8-1 Eagles travel to KC to face the 7-2 Chiefs. So onside, offside, this game is more important for the Eagles than it is for the Chiefs.
So from a record standpoint, you could say, all right, the Chiefs got to win because if the Chiefs lose, they're 7-3, and then them and the Ravens are pretty much close to being even though the Ravens are 8-3. Ravens, I don't believe, had their bye week yet. That's why that's the case. So I understand the case to be made for why this is more important for the Chiefs, but I don't think anyone doubts the Chiefs. I know their offense hasn't been clean. After last year, them getting doubted for a big chunk of the season and saying they're vulnerable, anyone saying they're vulnerable now, someone still's got to go out there and kick their ass and take their name while it matters. But for the Eagles, they're 8-1, and I don't think Philadelphia's played their best brand yet. And Philadelphia could improve slightly on the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, I would just trust the Eagles' offense more tonight to outscore the Kansas City Chiefs. So I kind of feel as if this game is more important for Philadelphia because if they lose, there'll be a gross overreaction tomorrow. Oh, the Eagles are vulnerable. Oh, the Eagles aren't as good as last year. If the Chiefs lose this game 7-3, I don't think anyone looks at Kansas City and goes, oh, they can't find a way to get back to the Super Bowl this year. So that's why I would say this game's more important to the Eagles than the Chiefs. So I would go on sides.
Michigan held on to beat Maryland 31-24 on Saturday, obviously without Jim Harbaugh. But before the game, Fox's Bruce Feldman had a troubling report about Harbaugh's future in Ann Arbor.
Going forward, it's going to be interesting because he still has an NCAA investigation from recruiting violations from the COVID dead period that the NCAA is still after him about. Now you have this Connor Stalions signal stealing story that they're dealing with. It would not be surprising if Jim Harbaugh, if he is still the coach at Michigan, could be suspended for the bulk of the 2024 season, I'm told.
So onside, offside, you are okay with the NCAA suspending Harbaugh a full season for his alleged violations?
Absolutely not. So he already served 3 games from the Big Ten, not the NCAA, on the sign stealing scandal. So if they want to hit him with 2 more games to make that 5, okay. The other thing, which was all about like the cheeseburgers and the illegal contact during a dead period and all that stuff, they took a self-imposed 3-game suspension. Now, they were close to reaching an agreement, and it didn't happen because Harbaugh wouldn't bow down, which maybe he should have done. Now, looking back, hindsight's 2020. I thought there would be like 2 more games added on there. So if you add that together and you want to say like 4 or 5 games next year, okay. But a full season, I think, would be a joke. So I would say offside when you ask me, are you okay with Harbaugh getting suspended for a full season?
Offside.
Now, Washington snuck by Oregon State in their final battle in the Pac-12 before the Huskies moved to the Big Ten next year. However, Washington and Washington State agreed to extend the historic Apple Cup until 2028 to keep the in-state rivalry alive. Onside, offside. Rivalries lose much of their luster when the teams are no longer in the same conference.
It loses a little bit of luster, but when you have these legendary rivalries, even if they're out of conference, I think you should still play them. Because for college football, those regular season games matter so much. And even though the NCAA has tried to kill the importance of geography and proximity and all that stuff with all the money-chasing teams going to the big conferences and all that, which I understand, those rivalries and that history still means a lot with those fan bases. And I don't want to see that go away. I still think there'd be a lot of juice for those games, even if it's not as much as it used to be with the changes of conferences. So rivalries lose much of their luster when the teams are not in the same conference. A little bit, but not much. I still think it'd be important to continue those, so I would go offside. All righty, that's Onside Offside is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Aaron Rodgers could be returning. Why would it be idiotic? We get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. So the Jets, they finally got a touchdown. I think it was like the first time in 38 possessions. But the Jets got a touchdown yesterday. It was the only points that they scored, as they did lose to the Buffalo Bills by a final score of 32-6. The Jets are now on a 3-game losing streak. Remember that time they were on a 3-game winning streak where they took care of business against the Broncos? By the way, the Broncos now look a little bit different as they survived last night. Back-to-back weeks, they just survived, but they get some victories. The Jets also beat the Eagles, and they came on back against the G-Men, the New York Football Giants. Since then, 6 points against the Chargers, 12 points against the Raiders, and 6 points against the Buffalo Bills. So the Jets are now 4-6. They are going to Tim Boyle, Pat Boyle, whoever you want to call him, as the quarterback. And they just announced a few moments ago that Trevor Siemian is going to be QB2. I heard Boomer Esiason this morning, I was told. He said the Jets should just cut Zach Wilson. He's not wrong. And we'll get back to the potential return of Aaron Rodgers in just a second and how that would just be so idiotic by the New York Jets to put Aaron Rodgers back on the field. But Joe Douglas needs to take some heat here, because Joe Douglas went out there. He acquired Aaron Rodgers. He found a way to rectify the Zach Wilson mistake and go out and get Aaron Rodgers. But when Rodgers, 4 plays into the season, has the Achilles injury, you needed to go get a new quarterback. And Zach Wilson should have only have been a temporary play. But even before this season, you could argue that Joe Douglas should have enhanced the backup quarterback position, and he didn't. And they kept on doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on Zach Wilson, and finally, enough was enough yesterday. Too little, too late, because look at what the Cleveland Browns are doing. I know it was a different part in the season, but they haven't had Deshaun Watson for a bulk of the season, and they're still 7-3. And the Cleveland Browns have a kick-ass defense. The Jets have a kick-ass defense. And on the offensive side of the ball, neither team have quarterbacks. But right at the trade deadline, how the heck did Joe Douglas not do something? The Vikings were smart. They went out and traded for Josh Dobbs. But how many quarterbacks are we going to see that we haven't heard of or we don't really know much about? They go to different spots this year and are at least capable of playing a good game or two. Zach Wilson isn't capable of that. Zach Wilson is one of the biggest busts of all time. And Joe Douglas should know about the importance of the backup quarterback because he was in Philadelphia when Nick Foles was the backup quarterback. And Carson Wentz got hurt. And the Eagles still won a Super Bowl. So it's amazing to me that Joe Douglas did nothing. And his ego really got in the way of doing something here. That's the only explanation that I have. Because what? If you cut Zach Wilson or if you traded for someone else, people are going to bring back up the draft pick? People are already over the number 2 overall draft pick when you selected Zach Wilson because you delivered them Aaron Rodgers. The team quit. The team gave up. The team hated Zach Wilson last year. They didn't believe in him. They were wearing Mike White shirts when you announced Mike freaking White as the starting quarterback. That's how much they didn't like this guy. And sure, Zach matured. Sure, Zach grew up this year. He learned how to handle the press conferences better. But he's still garbage as an NFL quarterback. So to continue to invest in that idea of maybe you could find a way to change the narrative about your awful draft pick is just insanity. And finally, they ran out of options, and now they're going to Tim Boyle with Trevor Siemian as the backup? Neither of those guys are going to be able to cut it. But this is what happens when you sit there, you do nothing, you ignore the backup quarterback position. You kind of get what you deserve. So at this rate, and Boomer said this before even knowing, and maybe Boomer knew some things were going to happen, and I don't think you even need the information. There's no way that the Jets could start Zach Wilson at home on Black Friday, everyone watching at 3 p.m. Eastern on Amazon Prime. There's no way you could do it. You'd be begging for those Jets fans to just hellaciously boo Zach Wilson. And I don't expect Tim Boyle to do anything. And this offense has a lot of problems. The line sucks. Nathaniel Hackett without Aaron Rodgers is lost. So there's a lot of problems with this offense. Lazard, he couldn't even catch a cold these days. There's a ton of problems with this offense. But there is zero reason to keep on throwing Zach Wilson out there. And at this rate, to keep him as your third-string quarterback, why? Do him a favor. Say goodbye to him. Let him try to start whatever is next. Whatever coordinator or head coach says, oh, it was the Jets that messed him up. We could fix him and make him a backup quarterback or maybe give him another chance down the road to start. Let that process start now. There's no need for him to be on the roster. Because if we're at the point of, hey, it can't get any worse with Tim Boyle or it can't get any worse with Trevor Siemian, what's the purpose of keeping him on the roster? But Joe Douglas needs to catch a lot of heat for this one and a lot of flack because you got rid of the quarterback problem by bringing in Aaron Rodgers. Then the Achilles injury happened and the quarterback problem popped back up because you didn't invest in the backup quarterback position. Imagine if the Jets had Jacoby Brissett or Josh Dobbs or Jameis Winston. Like, I'm not throwing out these great names. I'm not throwing out these impossible asks for names. But any of those three guys would be drastically better than the play of Zach Wilson. And the Zach Wilson story, it's now kind of just like a sad story. You keep on trotting him out there, and you know he's incapable. You know he's not good. And finally, cooler heads prevailed here, or Joe Douglas Just stop with the humana, and he made his coach look like a moron 2 weeks ago on ESPN radio in New York with Michael Kay when they were pressing him about maybe going another quarterback, and the coach had no answer. He basically gave you verbal diarrhea with what you were hearing from Robert Saleh a few weeks ago. So Zach Wilson is done, but now it's like the Jets. Samter, I know we were having fun earlier, or you were poking fun at my idea of Tom Brady going to the Cleveland Browns. You talked about how bad of an organization the Browns are. The Jets could be like one of the dumbest organizations in the history of sports. And I know that they somehow, some way got Aaron Rodgers. And that's wonderful. And I think Rodgers will win Comeback Player of the Year next year. We know they have a really damn good defense. They got to beef up that offensive line. But with what you look at right now in 2023, I don't care if Rodgers thinks he's the world's quickest healer, if Rodgers thinks he's God's gift, if he thinks ayahuasca Aaron could go into a cave and emerge from the cave and magically be healed, whatever this stuff is. But if Rodgers is returning just to prove a point, and they let him play, and I know that they genuflect to Rodgers and Rodgers run the organization, they may be the dumbest team in the history of the NFL. You cannot allow Aaron Rodgers at his age do something unprecedented and return when there is zero incentive and zero reason for him to be on the field taking snaps outside of just giving your fans something to cheer for at the end of the year. This team is 4-6. After Friday, they will be 4-7. They're already done, even in the AFC not being as strong as what we thought it was, but they're going to be 4-7 after this game on Friday. So why are you bringing back Rodgers? Why would Rodgers play? And I still don't believe he will play. This offensive line stinks. You already have a guy who's not going to be 100% and is not going to have his full mobility back. And even though the progress that he's made already, or at least has displayed to us publicly, is remarkable, I give him that. I respect that. I respect his drive. I respect his commitment. But what's the reason why Rodgers wants to come back? So he can give like a middle finger to everybody and show how different he is and how one of one he is? Behind that offensive line, you are risking a further injury. And you're not going to the playoffs. And you have a chance next year, if they change this offensive line and beef up this offensive line, for you to have a good team. For you to have a really good team and a really successful season. But to trot him out when the team is, I don't know, 8 or 9 losses to play the final 2 games of the season, what are you doing?
For me, I think from what I've gathered from Rodgers, it seems like he would only actually really try to come back if they were still in the playoff hunt. If they're 4-7, 4-8, I think at that point he probably says, all right, it's not worth it. But if they have a chance, if they're 5-6, right now the 7th seed is the Steelers, and we know that they're vulnerable. And they're what? They're 6-5. They're vulnerable. So if the Jets get to like 5-6,
6-4 Steelers.
6-4.
Yeah.
So if the Jets get to 5-6,
but that means they have to beat Miami this weekend.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, like,
they're not beating Miami.
No, you're right. But I'm just saying, if the Jets are like a game or even 2 games out of the final playoff spot, if you have Aaron Rodgers in there and he's able to make it work with that defense, sure. But here's the other thing: like watching these games, the Jets' defense at times looks historic. They look dominating, and then there's times where they just absolutely cannot stop anybody.
You want to know why?
Well, part of it is because they're trying so hard to like be perfect because the offense is that bad.
It's kind of like Tampa Bay before they got Brady. They know, and that's Jameis Winston at least would put up 30-something touchdowns. He threw 30 interceptions, but at least he would put up some points. They know that they have no margin of error, and no defense is perfect. Every defense is going to allow a big play or allow a touchdown, but once you allow that touchdown, it's almost like they exhale because they know, man, the game's over. Because our offense, you score 14 points against the Jets, you win the game. Like most defenses would take only allowing 2 touchdowns. You scored 2 touchdowns on the Jets defense, bye-bye, good night. And also, you can't even see the best version of this defense because they get no time to rest on the sideline. It's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Or even if they move the ball to midfield, they never get it to the 30-yard line. So you have to play a perfect game And naturally, I would have to think the defensive players, and you even saw it a little bit on the sideline with Quinn and Williams, they got to be on edge because they know the moment they allow a big play, it's over. And that's got to be insanely frustrating. Like let's just say, right, this is a partnership, this show. And let's say I wasn't doing my job, and I was doing my job at a historically bad rate. But you two are kicking ass, taking names, dominating, and doing a sensational job. Even if you like me as a person, naturally you would get annoyed with me because I would be sinking the ship, which would never happen, of this very fine national radio program and this very fine national network. And when you see someone else just be so bad and you're that good at your job, and then you get blamed because you allow one mistake, it's like, well, what about the person that makes 35 mistakes during the game? And as a human, that's just got to be so frustrating because you know you have literally zero margin of error.
Sure, and there's definitely that psychological side of it. Mm-hmm. However, if you're really that good, you don't have to necessarily even be perfect. They looked like a sieve yesterday, and part of it, like you said...
What, the defense?
The defense.
But for a while, it was a 9-0 game.
It was a 9-0 game, but at the end of the day, like, they were driving, and they were stopping them from scoring touchdowns, but the Bills were driving at will. They were moving the ball at will. There was a missed field goal in there. It could have been 12-0. The Bills were able to move the ball on the Jets at will, and that was part of the issue. And it was the same thing in week one. Even though they had those 3 picks against Josh Allen, when the Bills needed a field goal to tie the game, they got it. They were able to drive and move the ball on the defense. So my point is this. The Jets are not going to be in contention, so I don't think Rodgers is going to come back this year if the Jets are like 3 games out of the final playoff spot with no chance. But even if they are in contention, I don't think this team is good enough. Like you said, the offensive line, and I love Garrett Wilson, but they have no number 2 option outside of Garrett Wilson.
What do you define?
And the defense is good, but it's not as good as we think it,
what do you
as it can be.
define as in contention? Like if they're 2 games out and they're not mathematically eliminated, you're not making like.
I mean, if they're 2 games
left,
out with 5 games to go, then yeah, you can make that up. And then if you make that
hold
up,
on. The reporting is that he would maybe come back for the final 3 weeks of the season. So we got to look at it from the final 3 weeks of the season. I just don't think there's going to be a scenario. And it's not as if their schedule is the toughest thing in the world. But this offense, maybe Tim Boyle lights it up and it's one of the great stories and he saves the New York Jets and gets Rodgers back on the field. But we're talking about the Dolphins this week. Atlanta's not really damn good, but at least they got some offensive playmakers. You play the Texans, C.J. Stroud's on fire. You play the Dolphins again. It's like after that stretch, just at those 4 games, they're going to pick up 2 more losses, bare minimum. And then we're talking about, they're at 6 losses right now, 8 losses on the season. They're cooked. But let me just let's just lay this out there for people. Here's the Jay Glazer report from yesterday, which a lot of it is what Samter's saying. If they're in contention, if they have a chance to go make the playoffs. But this was Jay Glazer on Fox yesterday.
No, more than a slight chance. He's actually going to go back to the Jets this week, start training with them. How about that? He actually sent the Jets video of him working out this week. They kind of blew their minds like, man, he's a little bit further ahead than we thought. In Aaron Rodgers' mind, he's telling the Jets, I'd like to actually start practicing as early as December 2nd. That's only in a couple weeks from now. And if they're still in playoff contention, he really does mean it. He's going to try and play sometime here in the middle of December.
So the middle of December, at the absolute earliest, would be December 17th against the Dolphins. So that means that they play the Dolphins this week, the Falcons, and the Texans. So that would be the final 4 weeks of the season at the absolute earliest. They got to go win 2 out of 3. With the schedule being Dolphins, Falcons, and Texans, just to keep this dream alive. Does anyone right now in their right mind think the Jets are going to win 2 out of 3? I don't, because of everything you just said. The line stinks. The defense has no margin of error. And even Tim Boyle goes and gets you a game. Does anyone think he's going to put back-to-back good efforts out there and outscore the Dolphins, the Falcons, and the Texans 2 out of 3 times? I simply just can't see it.
And listen, you're probably right that it won't happen. But the question is, hypothetically, what if they are in contention? Let's say they pull off a miracle and they are still in contention with 3 games to go.
Like a game out?
I still think with 3 games to go, 2 games out is fine. As long as there's not like 8 other teams in front of you, right? If you're like 11,
which is going to be the case in the AFC.
If they win 2 straight, they might be like the 9, right? If they're like the 9 seed and they only need to jump a team or two, I say let him come back and just see what happens.
Yeah, behind this offensive line with really no mobility, because his mobility is going to be limited. I don't care how quick of a healer you are. I think you're asking for him to get out for next season, unfortunately. And that's why I would just take your loss here. Aaron, we appreciate it. Aaron, we appreciate the courage, the determination, all that stuff. But we got to do what's in the best interest of you. And what's in the best interest of Aaron, even if he doesn't think that way, is for him not to play until next season. Zach Gelb here with you on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a timeout. We'll come on back, and we'll update you on some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio with the News Brief.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports, or on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help you find a fix for free. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Let's start things off with Brandon Staley. He goes on a petulant rant after reporters asked him about potentially giving up play calling duties on defense.
I have full confidence, like I've told you, and like I've told you from the beginning, I have full confidence in our way of playing. Full confidence in myself as the play caller, in the way that we teach, in the way that we scheme. Full confidence in that. We got to bring this group together and do it consistently, okay? And that's where it's at. So you can stop asking that question, okay? I'm going to be calling the defenses, okay? So we're clear. So you don't have to ask that again.
When you are a trash head coach, not a good idea, and shows a major sign of weakness, and shows that the outside noise and your job status with you being on the hot seat is really getting to you. When you get asked a simple question about will you give up play calling duties when you made Jordan Love, who's been a below average quarterback this year, look like a Hall of Famer the other day and play some of the best football in his young career. When you go off on a reporter like that, quite frankly, you look like a jackass and you look unprofessional. And Brandon Staley needs to be fired. He needed to be fired a few weeks ago. But Brandon Staley's the dude that the Titanic ship is sinking, and he's sitting there saying, nothing to see here, folks. Everything's fine. Who's with me? Who wants to stay on board? Who wants to stay on the ship even though 75% of it is already underwater? And no one is following his crappy leadership. That's Brandon Staley. So he can sit back and go, yeah, I know I took over play calling duties on defense. I'm the guy. We made changes on defense and offense. How dare you question me? He just looks like a buffoon. And this guy needs to be fired. He needed to be fired weeks ago. And the Spanos family, they are the number one reason and the biggest culprit for him still having a job. And you need to go right to the top and you need to get rid of him, because for this team to be 4-6, all the talent that they have, and they can't beat anyone, is just absolutely a joke. And the 2 games he won this year, he got lucky to win, because I don't forget about those. He went for it on 4th down, deep inside his own territory, which was stupid. And you had Kirk Cousins throw a pick and Aiden O'Connell throw a pick because McDaniels was a McDoofus, where he didn't hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs and threw it at the 3 with Aiden O'Connell. So they're lucky to have 4 wins this year. But this guy's such a clown. Here is Rex Ryan, who ripped Brandon Staley earlier this AM on Get Up.
I think he should go back in Division III football where he belongs. Look, this guy, look at his resume, man. I mean, I'm sorry. Dude comes in there, 1-year coordinating a team that my wife could coach. All right, with Aaron Donald, all those guys. Stop it.
He's been around for a long time.
Oh, yeah. And trust me, she'd do a hell of a lot better job than this guy's doing with this defense. They're the 2nd highest payroll in the National Football League on defense. And they're the 2nd worst. Like, this team is atrocious.
That's amazing. I miss Rex Ryan's weekly press conferences, whether they were with the Jets or whether they were with the Buffalo Bills. That's just a football dude. And the Staley story went from one where, like, a year before he got a job, I was praising him before he got a head coaching job. He was a likable story. But now he's just so insufferable because he thinks he's the smartest dweeb in the room, and he gets it wrong consistently over and over again. And he does nothing to change. Nothing. And he blames it on everybody but himself. It's ridiculous. Stu, your team has their own problems inside the AFC West. But you're probably praying that with 1 year left on the contract that he's back next year as the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers because of how much of a joke this guy is.
Absolutely. He's a terrible head coach. And they've had a lot of bad coaches, but I think he's the worst one they've had in the past, 20 years or whatever it's been.
You just get an average coach. With this talent, this team should easily have a playoff win. Instead, they spotted him, 27 points last year? And he choked it up. Let's go to C.J. Stroud. Threw 3 interceptions yesterday, but the Texans still found a way to get a victory up against the Arizona Cardinals. C.J. Stroud, if the 3-interception game will change how he plays.
Man, Steph Curry don't ever stop shooting. I'm gonna keep letting it ride. I don't got no shame in my game. I definitely got to be smarter, but no confidence is taken away from me. I'm gonna keep shooting it. I'm gonna keep letting it fly, and that's what I think. That's what makes me great. That's not gonna skew my confidence one bit, and I'm gonna keep being me.
I love C.J. Stroud. I've never changed my tune and opinion on a player in a positive way as quick as C.J. Stroud. Like, you go back to when I talked to him at the Heisman, and I asked him, why should you be the number 1 overall pick? What would you say to me? And so far, even though he's a Heisman finalist, I was a little disappointed with C.J. Stroud because I thought he could be better, especially with all the talent around him at Ohio State. And he goes, I'm more mobile than people give me credit for, and I hope to put that on display soon. And then he goes up against Georgia, goes blow for blow with Georgia. Should have beat them, quite frankly. Did not. And then falls. He was the 2nd overall pick in the draft. And he is lighted up this year in a situation where, let's be real, DeMeco Ryans a really good young head coach, but it's not as if they're loaded with talent on either side of the ball. They got some pieces, but they're not loaded with talent. And this is just the beginning, and you just hear the way that he speaks. Brandon Staley is like the definition of someone that's unprofessional. C.J. Stroud is the consummate professional. I actually remember with the Steph Curry analogy that he used, the first time I got to see Steph Curry play live, in person, not just watch it on TV. It was in Philadelphia. I was so excited. Steph didn't make a 3-point shot in the entire game. I was so devastated because Steph Curry is just a video game walking in front of you, and your jaw hits the floor every time you watch him play basketball. And I asked Steph about going 0-10, 0-11. It was really bad. And he goes, shoot or shoot. He goes, I'm a great shooter. I'm going to keep on shooting just as if I made 10 3-pointers in a row. That's a good mentality to have by C.J. Stroud. Sure, you could learn. You win a game. That's what good teams do. They win when they don't play their best brand of football. You got to fine-tune some things. I wonder how much the injury maybe played a factor into it, as he did leave for a play or two. But there's things you could learn, but I don't think that should really shake your confidence because you still won the game. Let's go to Najee Harris. The Steelers are just all frustrated. A few weeks ago, it was George Pickens. At least that came in a win. Here is Najee Harris, frustrated with the offense in a 13-10 loss yesterday to the Cleveland Browns.
There's just a lot of stuff that just goes around that just that you guys don't see. I guess I'm kind of saying. I'm just at a point where it was just like, man, I'm just tired of this.
So he comes from Alabama, and all he does is know what it's like to win. Now, he goes to the Steelers organization. Their reputation is a very good organization. They're one of the gold standard franchises in sports. But since he's been there, they've never had a shot to win a Super Bowl. And this offense has been brutal where the defense has been really good. Now, Najee Harris had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to start off his career. But you always hear the way that Najee Harris is talked about in Pittsburgh. It's like he's missing something. And Jaylen Warren is having a better season than him. Jaylen Warren had a great game yesterday, 9 carries for $129 and a touchdown, and he had that touchdown run for 74 yards. Najee Harris had 12 carries for 35 yards. So there's reasons to be frustrated. You know Kenny Pickett isn't the answer. You know Matt Canada is a bad offensive coordinator, but control what you could control. And Najee Harris hasn't controlled that well this year. So I think that is someone who's very proud with what he does, and he is someone that wants to be on a new team. And he knows there's a lot of sloppiness and things that are going wrong behind the scenes. But once again, it's like, what are you doing individually to change it? We'll keep it moving. Let's go to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones finally decided to put his big boy pants on and make sure that Jimmy Johnson would go into the Cowboys Ring of Honor. And here is Jerry Jones announcing this on Fox yesterday to Jimmy Johnson.
I will say this, it was magical the time we had together. And I want you to know something. On December the 30th of 1923, you're going in the Dallas Cowboy Ring of Honor. I hope it's 2023. What did I say? 2023. Well, it is 2023. I know you want to get this real clear. Okay, 3 weeks from now.
1923. I know Jerry Jones is getting up there in age, but when I heard that yesterday, here's how I kind of processed it. Sometimes you are asked to do something or pressured to do something, and you don't want to do it. And Jerry Jones has acted like a child with someone that, right, he was very close to for a long time, going back to their days together at Arkansas, and then what they did with the Cowboys, but then it was an ugly end. And he's held that grudge against Jimmy Johnson and has refused. Like, Jimmy Johnson's made the Hall of Fame before getting put in the Cowboys Ring of Honor. That's just backwards. So backwards. So now, with how many people really the last 2-3 years have been pushing this issue, he finally caved. And I still don't think he wants to put him in the Ring of Honor. And that's when you're doing something that you really don't want to do. It's like mentally you're saying to yourself, man, I don't want to do this, but I have to do it. And then you misspeak, where you just say something that doesn't even make sense, where you go from 2023, where you get in, to, 1923? Or whatever the year was that he said. That's my probably too far in deep analysis of what was going on in the cabeza of one Jerry Jones Santer.
Either that or he's living in 1923 and he still thinks that he's back in that time. I thought that he was talking military time. I was like, 1923, he means at exactly 7:23 p.m. Eastern time.
It drives me nuts. My dad, who is not in the military, all the clocks that he has in the house, in the car, he's obsessed with military time. So I went home this weekend to visit the family, and the military time just throws me off. I never have any damn clue what time it is, and I always have to look down at the phone. Just because, right away, I'm not good with mental math. So when I look up and I see 16, 13 or something like that, I'm like, I have no clue what actual time it is. So I'm not a big fan of military time. Big fan of the military, but not a big fan of military time. Just want to put that out there. Next thing you know, someone tweets out, here's this dope on CBS Sports Radio being against the military. No. I'm all for the troops, just not for military time. And finally, I'm usually for Jim Harbaugh. I'm not for this analogy. Jim Harbaugh had a very weird analogy about his locker room.
Go back to that the Ted Lasso show. Believe. And what comes out of that is believe. And I'm just so proud of our team. Despite that noise, our locker room's in one piece. Like Ted, for me, locker rooms, a lot like my mom's bathing suits. I like to see them in one piece.
That's cringe. That's the ultimate dad joke. I've told my uncle Gary, many times before. He kind of reminds me like Jim Harbaugh. And they also have very similar glasses as well, and the same kind of mannerisms too. And real bring your lunch pail to work every day and be a workaholic, all that stuff, and work until you can't work anymore and then work some more. But my uncle is the king of dad jokes. When we go out to restaurants with him, my cousin and I, we cringe and kick each other underneath the table every time he makes a dad joke. And that was the dad joke of all dad jokes by Jim Harbaugh. Where it's a little bit funny, but you're not really laughing because you think it's funny. It's more so you're laughing at, out of sympathy for how cringe the joke was. And talking about your mother and how you want to see her in a one-piece bathing suit because, right, no one wants to see their mom in a bikini. It was just an analogy that you just really didn't need. And I'm very pro Harbaugh. I think it's a joke what the Big Ten and the NCAA has done to him. But I would actually tack on a game to that suspension after that dad joke. I would say, Jim, I have no problem with what happened with Connor Stallions, but after that dad joke, we go from 3 games to 4 games. And then put an end to all this. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll take a break. We'll come on back with 3 college football takes. But first up, standing by with the latest CBS Sports Radio update is the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Week 11 has saved the best for last. The Super Bowl rematch between the Eagles and Chiefs in Kansas City, and the could very well meet again in February. Philadelphia leads the NFC at 8-1. Kansas City is at 7-2. And this is one Patrick Mahomes is very much looking forward to.
It's going to be a great game. Like you said, you got great teams in general. I mean, obviously Jalen's a great quarterback, but I think just the full entire team on both sides is you never know how the game's going to go. It could be high scoring, it could be low scoring, but two teams that usually find a way to get a win and playing on Monday Night Football in front of the whole world. It's going to be a great game, and I'm glad it's at Arrowhead.
Both teams are coming off their bye weeks. No shortage of storylines. The brothers Kelsey facing each other again. Andy Reid against his former team, and Reid 31-6 coming off the bye week. A win tonight for the Chiefs, and Reid would pass Hank Stram for most wins in Chiefs history. The Jets will start Tim Boyle at quarterback Friday against the Dolphins. Bills safety Taylor Rapp checked out okay after being carted off the field with a neck injury yesterday. Lance Lynn returns to the Cardinals on a one-year deal. And the Maui Classic right now, Tennessee leads Syracuse in the second half, 70-56. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio is everywhere, Perloff, at home, in your car, and, of course, on your phone and tablet.
Maggie, you can find us on your local affiliate, Sirius XM Channel 158, or the free Odyssey app.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio.
Lincoln Riley is an overrated coach. That doesn't mean he's horrible. That doesn't mean he's a miserable head football coach. He's a very, very, very good head football coach. But in big moments, he doesn't show up. And to not get to a college football playoff with Caleb Williams is embarrassing. Either USC or LSU are the two most disappointing teams in college football. We're not even in November yet, and both of those teams won't sniff the CFP.
This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Well, that was a college football take that we got right. We all know Lincoln Riley is an overrated coach. Now, that's not me saying he's ass or he's trash or he's brutal. The guy produces a ton of Heisman Trophy winners, Heisman Trophy finalists. He stacks a bunch of wins, but in the big games, he doesn't get the job done. Never won a college football playoff game, even though he had a few Heisman Trophy winners at Oklahoma, and then didn't even get to a college football playoff appearance, having 2 years of Caleb Williams. Last year, they lose in the Pac-12 championship game, lost twice to Utah, and really Utah did it to them again this year, and they don't even have Cam Rising, because it's one thing where the offense doesn't play great, and Caleb Williams is allowed to have a stinker of a game. You lose one game to Notre Dame, you still run the table, you win the Pac-12, okay. One-loss Pac-12 champ. We could talk that way about how we talk about Oregon this year. How Oregon, if they only lose one game to Washington and win the Pac-12 championship, they should be going to the college football playoff. And remember, Notre Dame, even though you lost, it's not in conference. But after that Notre Dame game that puts them at 6-1, they lose to Utah. Then they survive barely against Cal by 1 point. And the last 3 weeks, lost to Washington, lost to Oregon, the two top teams in the Pac-12 this year, and then up against UCLA with rumors that Chip Kelly, his fate may already be determined. He already may be fired, and there's been some pushback there. You don't only lose, you lose by 18 points to UCLA. So we've gone from a team that had 2 losses last year to a team that has 5 this year. And the season isn't even over. And don't worry, it ends next week. But that's crazy. They only had 2 losses last year in the regular season and then the Pac-12 championship game. And this year, with the way that they are, they have 5 losses. That's wild. So they'll go to a bowl game with the regular season being over, but they're not going to a Pac-12 championship game this year. And Caleb Williams isn't going to play in the bowl game. Why would he? It'd be crazy for him to play in the bowl game. So this season's over for USC at 7-5, and this is one of the worst coaching jobs that you've ever seen. To have Caleb Williams and to have 5 losses, and I correct myself, their regular season's over now. At 7-5, that's brutal. Even for me, who has said Lincoln Riley is not all that as what people make him up to be, and I, before the year, had Washington as my Pac-12 champ. And I've loved Oregon going into the season. I still gave a lot of credit to Utah with how many good teams they were looking to be before the season. People telling me, I'm going to take USC because they got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner. They got the great Lincoln Riley. I'm like, the great Lincoln Riley? He's good. He's very good. He's not great. But at least at the other stops, he at least got to the college football playoff. Now, you can't even get to the Pac-12 championship game this year, let alone the college football playoff with Caleb Williams? Oof. Really ugly. Really bad. All righty, let's get to 3 college football takes. I'm going to start it off with Washington. Washington needs more respect. I don't know what the committee's going to do tomorrow, but Washington, out of the 5 teams or the 4 teams that are in front of them in the college football playoff rankings, Washington has the best win out of the 4 teams in front of them. Washington beat Oregon, who's 6 in the rankings, but Washington's undefeated and they're not in the top 4. Doesn't make sense. But what Washington did in Corvallis this past weekend, where I think a lot of people would have thought that in that potential Pac-12 championship rematch, that we would see Oregon beat Washington. Washington put something on display against Oregon State where their biggest weakness ended up being a strength up against Oregon State, Jonathan Smith, and DJ Uiagalelei. And that was the questions around the defense. That defense in the second half was magnificent. And their offense did nothing in the second half. As I know it's bad conditions, Michael Penix Jr. played his ass off in the first half. He made some really nice passes, but they didn't score in the second half. And they could have lost that game. But their defense came up big over and over again. So Washington, I'm assuming they're going to be in the top 4 when the rankings come out on Tuesday night, but the committee has given them no respect, and it's wild that Kalen DeBoer and the Huskies need to slam the desk to get that respect, and they're 11-0, and they get the win this weekend, then they win the Pac-12 championship game. We're looking at a team that's 13-0, and then what are people going to say? So Washington needs more respect. Florida State, I'm devastated for them. I love that Florida State team this year. We've had Norvell on, Jordan Travis on, Jared Verse on. They're a really fun team. I didn't think they'd make the CFP before the start of the season, but I picked them to win the ACC. And they're going to have a tough one as that ACC title game is decided going up against Louisville. And Jeff Brohm, the head coach of Louisville, will join us coming up at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. So that's coming up today on the show. We'll talk to Jeff Brohm. But when you're going up against an inferior opponent, they were struggling with them, and you have your quarterback suffer a gruesome leg injury, a quarterback that they go on to win 2 more games, there would have been a Heisman push to be made, and he's been so tough this year playing through injuries. Remember the Clemson game when his arm looked like it was about to fall off his body, and he's gutted it out. And to see his season come to an end and his college career come to an end, just absolutely devastated. But the take is, even though I would expect Florida to fall out of the top 4, because people are going to look at them and they're going to say, with the injury, they're a different team. They win their next 2 games, and they should beat Florida. But they beat top 10 Louisville in the ACC championship game, and Louisville only has 1 loss in the year. I'm not keeping them out of the college football playoff. They're undefeated. They, even with Travis out, they still deserve to be in the college football playoff, but they got to take care of business the next 2 weeks. Let's listen up to Mike Norvell on the gruesome injury that Jordan Travis did suffer on Saturday.
Jordan is so important to this team, and not just as the quarterback, but just who he is and what he stands for. And so it's when you see a player get hurt, and and not really knowing what that's gonna be. But obviously, it was something that it was emotional, and it was emotional for everybody.
And you could have Tate Rodemaker come into the game after the Jordan Travis injury and go 13-23 for 217 yards, throw 2 touchdowns, but it was up against North Alabama. I don't know how to evaluate that. So I can't sit here and pretend to be this expert on their new quarterback, but you should be able to beat Florida, and then you have a top 10 matchup against Louisville in the ACC championship game. You win those 2 games, you're undefeated, and you're 13-0. I'm not keeping you out of the college football playoff, because you did what was expected of you, and that's now win every game of the season. Once they got through Clemson, even with tough games at the time, Duke and Miami on the horizon too, they were expected to win every game the rest of the way after they beat Clemson. And we know what they did in week 1 against LSU, just taking it to Brian Kelly in the second half. Once they got through Clemson, they were expected to win every game. They still do that just because Travis got hurt? Yeah, you look at them differently, but I'm not keeping them out of the CFP. And then finally, Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, he deserves a bigger job. And I think a lot of attention has been thrown to Dan Lanning and Kalen DeBoer, deservedly so, for the jobs that open up like Texas A&M, Mississippi State, even when Michigan State did open up too. And sometimes you don't want to leave what's working well. But last year, Chris Kleiman may be the most underappreciated conference champion ever. Like, they won the conference championship, but since they beat TCU, and TCU at the time was undefeated, and they were still going to college football playoff, no one celebrated the Wildcats. And then this year, they are 8-3, and the 3 losses they had was up against Missouri by 3 points, who's having a heck of a season. They lose to Oklahoma State, who's always a well-coached team with Mike Gundy, 29-21. And they lost in overtime to Texas, who could go to the college football playoff if they went out, 33-30. So this guy continues to do a great job. Beat Kansas, having a heck of a season with Lance Leipold to go to 8-3. They play Iowa State this weekend. They should be 9-3. They're going to be in a big bowl game. Kansas State's a solid job, but he deserves a bigger job. Like A&M, that would be a home run hire if they walk away getting Chris Kleiman. It really would be. And maybe it's not sexy, maybe it's not flashy, but everywhere that dude goes, he wins. So those are 3 college football takes. Still give Washington, they need more respect. Florida State, they win their next 2 games. They should still go to the college football playoff, even without Jordan Travis, and I'm gutted for him that he's done for the season. And Chris Kleiman, he deserves a big-time job in college football. We'll break. We'll come on back. We'll do a little no-huddle offense. And still to come in 25 minutes from now, off to the ACC championship game back at home where the school that he played his college ball at, Jeff Brohm, the head coach of Louisville, will join us with Kentucky this week and then the ACC championship the following week.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All right, and we continue. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on CBS Sports Radio. Time to get to a Week 11 edition of No Huddle Offense.
Touchdowns, sacks, upsets, and last-minute heroics. Another NFL Sunday is in the books, and we've got you covered with the biggest plays and sound bites from another wild week in the National Football League. It's time for No Huddle Offense on the Zach Gelb Show.
Texans survive. Texans win. They are now 6-4 on the season, taking down the Arizona Cardinals 21-16 in the first half. It looked like this was going to be a high-scoring affair where we'd see fireworks from both quarterbacks with the way C.J. Stroud was playing and then also Kyler Murray. But in the second half, only 6 total points were scored, and all 6 did go to the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray in the game was 20 of 30 for 214 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Also had 7 carries for 51 yards and a rushing TD. C.J. Stroud, 27 of 37, 336 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. You say, Zach, that's a pretty damn good day. Unfortunately, had 3 interceptions, though, in the contest as well. Texans moved the ball very easily, but then once they got onto the Cardinal side of the field, things did not go well, but the 21 first-half points was all they needed. And everyone's talking about the heroic rookie season for C.J. Stroud, as you should. How about the 69th overall pick from this past draft, Tank Dell? He's also been a monster as a rookie. He had 8 receptions, 149 yards, and a touchdown. And let's hear a C.J. Stroud 40-yard touchdown pass to Tank Dell.
Offset eye. C.J. drops back in the pocket, looking, flushed out to the right. C.J. guns it long downfield and caught. Touchdown! Wow. Amazing catch, Tank Dell.
What a throw by Stroud. And Dell with the reception. Jumps into the stands. Go Cougs. That's my guy.
So there you go. That is the Texans radio network, of course, Tank Dell from Houston. That's where he attended university last year. And he's having a remarkable season. You look at this Texans team. My biggest takeaway actually from the game yesterday, Devin Motor Singletary. That's back-to-back weeks with over 100 yards. He's very streaky going back to his time in Buffalo, but last week got 150. This week gets 112 and a touchdown. But when you go back to the Texans and you see that game, it's like, all right, they won the game. They're 6-4. It's an incredible story. But what's their ceiling for this season? Are they just a team that's solid, or can they be an actual threat come playoff time? Can they be a tough out? And they got a big game this upcoming weekend against the Jaguars. They already beat by 20, kind of lean in Jacksonville. So they lose that game. That puts them at 6-5. But after that, even though the Broncos are surging, they should beat them. They should beat the Jets. You play Tennessee twice. Bare minimum, you should split. You should probably win both. You play Cleveland. That's going to be a good game. And then you have the Colts at the end of the season. They're no good. So I look at this Texans team. They should have 10 or 11 wins. And the reason why I think they are a dangerous team is because there's no expectation. There's no pressure. You make the playoffs, which I do believe they will. No one's going to go into the playoffs and say, oh, we got to fear the Texans. But DeMeco Ryans has that team believing. C.J. Stroud, even in 3 interceptions, his confidence doesn't waver. I do believe they're going to be a tough out. Not saying they're going to win a playoff game. Not even saying they're going to go to the divisional round. But that's going to be a tough out because that team doesn't fear anybody right now. Cowboys and Panthers, this game goes how I kind of expected it to. Frank Reich got the play calling duties back as the head coach. But my, oh my, that offense stinks. I'm not even going to crush Bryce Young because no quarterback could go behind that offensive line, really no run game, and also have no wide receivers that are number one wide receivers in this league anymore and go make that a decent situation. The Cowboys win 33-10. Give you some numbers from the game. Dak Prescott, 189 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 38, and a touchdown that snaps a streak of 10-plus catches and 150-plus yards. And Deron Bland is the big story from this one. He had his 4th pick 6 of the season. Now, I knew that he had a few on the year, but when they flash it across the screen yesterday, it's his 4th of the season. It's like a holy crap type of moment, and maybe he ends up getting 5. But here is Deron Bland's 30-yard pick 6, his 4th of the season. This made it 30-10.
From the 25, play action. Young throws the ball. Intercepted at the 30-yard line. Coming down the left side is Bland. Catch at the 5. He did it again. He did it again.
Unbelievable what he is doing.
Undercut the first down pass, and Deron Bland said, I don't think I've scored in about 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
So Bryce Young with the pick there also had a touchdown pass, only 123 yards passing. That's the 3rd straight game with him going under 190 passing yards. So the take from here, Cowboys fans, it doesn't take much to get them going and for them to start kind of puffing their chest out there and saying, oh, we're great. Oh, we're wonderful. Oh, we're going to be a Super Bowl team this year. Doesn't take much. But let's remember what this team did up against the Eagles and 49ers. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're a great team and give them any words of extolment after blowing out the Giants and blowing out the Carolina Panthers the last 2 weeks. You're expected to do that. You'd rather have the blowout victory than it be a close one, and everyone enjoys a stress-free Sunday. But that doesn't alter my view of the Cowboys because the Cowboys have a really good defense. Dak is a really good quarterback. They have really good pieces on the offensive side of the ball, but they're just a really good team. They're not a great team. They're not an elite team. And come playoff time, I think at best, they get to the second round. At best. But I don't see any way how they're in a Super Bowl this year. I don't trust them to be consistent. Because even last year, people go, oh, what are you talking about? Dak played well up against the Bucs. They were 8-9. How did Dak do the next week? How did he do up against the San Francisco 49ers? He didn't show up when that was a winnable game, and they should have won that game. And shame on me, I actually picked them to win that game. So we've seen the Cowboys the last 2 years make themselves look like a great team with 12 wins, but come playoff time, they come up small. And I just don't trust them. I think they are the team that is just stuck on being a good team, and they are not close to being a great team. Let's go to Santa Clara. Man, Brock Purdy was rocking out with his Brock out. He was looking pretty awesome. Brock Purdy is back. And a lot of it has to do with his team is now healthy. But he did have a 76-yard touchdown to Brandon Ayuk. This made it 20-7. Brock Purdy in the game, 333 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and it's 3 straight games over 295 yards. And his last 2, he has 6 touchdowns to no interceptions. Christian McCaffrey got back into the end zone. He had 102 total yards, and Brandon Ayuk 5 for $156, and this long score.
Going deep down the sideline for Ayuk. He's got it, and he's gone. 20, 10, 5, touchdown! San Francisco. Ayuk is on fire.
House call, baby. What a throw.
So I actually have to apologize to the San Francisco 49ers radio network. Back in week 2 of the NFL season, when I was on from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern, I did a weekly spot with Nick Costos. And I said, Nick, I'm pretty sure I've heard you sing in your voice, Ayuk is on fire. And I credit that to Nick Costos. And he was like, I don't have a Nick Costos Brandon Ayuk song. He looked at me as if I had 3,000 heads. And I go, where the heck was that from? And there you go. It's from the San Francisco 49ers radio network. And I'm a big fan of the San Francisco 49ers radio network. Touchdown, San Francisco! Even though I think the 49ers are a heck of a team. I think the Eagles are better, and 49ers fans don't like me. Their radio team, they are elite. And the 49ers, you just see what happens. Now people are like, oh, Brock Purdy's back in the MVP conversation. Brock Purdy's great. No. I still think Brock Purdy is a product of the system. Now, he plays really damn well. I give him credit. I give him praise. But look what happened when Trent Williams was hurt. Look what happened when Deebo Samuel was hurt. 2 big pieces out, and he looked human. They lost 3 games in a row. They get those guys back, and it's like, wow, here's the great Brock Purdy again. And maybe one day he turns into a great quarterback. But it doesn't matter, this debate, franchise quarterback or system quarterback. You go get the job done this year and win a Super Bowl, call him whatever you want. It shouldn't bother you because you'd have that Lombardi trophy. Let's go to Courtland Sutton. Here's the game-winning 15-yard touchdown catch. What an incredible catch this was by Courtland. This made it 21-20. They missed the 2-point conversion. It was no good. Really dumb play call. But here is the game-winning score.
Wilson under pressure, steps up, throws back in the end zone. It is caught. Touchdown, Denver. Touchdown, Denver. Courtland Sutton, a leaping grab in the back of the end zone, and the Broncos have taken the lead. With 1:03 to go, 21-20 Denver. What a throw, what a catch. This place is going nuts. They love it in the Mile High City.
So the Broncos are somewhat back. They are 5-5. They have won 4 games in a row. They took care of business against Green Bay, Kansas City. They beat Buffalo when McDermott handed them that victory, when Sean Payton was trying to do everything in his power to not get the victory. But up against Minnesota, that was like another game. I'm watching that game. Minnesota should have won the game. And then you walk away from the TV and you go, oh, wait, Denver won? So, yeah, they're 5-5. They are now alive, but their next 4 games, they play Cleveland, who's good, the Texans, who are good, the Chargers, who aren't, and the Lions, who are good. You want to show me that, you really changed? Go 500 there. Go take 2 out of the next 4. Go take 3 out of the next 4, if you can. But if you're 1-3 after these next 4 games, I don't want to hear about the parade that's been thrown in these last 4 weeks for Denver. Here is what I'll say about Denver. Sean is being the way that Sean coached. And he was someone that the first few weeks of the season, it's like, what kind of Sean Payton is this? And now he has got back to the coach that he's capable of being. And for Russell Wilson, he's not elite. He's not great, but he's playing good football. And this gives Russell Wilson another year in Denver, which is a good thing for the Denver Broncos. But I'm not going to go nuts and go all delirious and say, oh, they're this great team. Oh, they're this force. Because just as quickly as they won those 2 games last week, they could have easily lost them as well. They're moving in the right direction. Now let's see how far you could take it. Raiders and Dolphins, low-scoring game here. I really thought the Dolphins were going to blow out the Raiders, but that wasn't the case. So far through 3 games, the Raiders with Antonio Pierce are 2-1, and they've been in, right, that game yesterday. They've been in all 3 of the games, winning 2, losing 1. What more can you ask for? Dolphins win 20-13, but their offense did nothing in the second half. Let's listen up to the early score. Tyreek Hill, catch and run. This was awesome. 38-yard touchdown. This made it 7-3.
Wilson in motion, back to throw, looking downfield, a great catch by Hill.
Goodbye.
Tackle, touchdown, Miami.
Dolphins just outran everybody on a crossing route. Nobody in the secondary could catch him. Great throw by Tua Tagovailoa.
And Tua in the game at 325 yards passing, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Tyreek Hill, 10 for $146 in that score. He's on pace to go over 2,000 yards, 2,077 to be exact. Aiden O'Connell, 217 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks. Devontae Adams does get into the end zone, 7 receptions for 82 yards. A lot of people critical the Dolphins' offense out of this one. I understand it. I'm not going to crush them after yesterday because I think you're going up against the Raiders. You're at home. You knew you were going to beat that team. They played okay in the first half. In the second half, they weren't great. I think yesterday just kind of shows you that even when you win, there's limitations with the Dolphins. Like, the Dolphins are one of those teams like the Cowboys that are a good team. Their defense played great yesterday, so give them all the credit in the world. But in the big games, they don't take care of business. And they lose to the Bills 48-20. They lose to the Eagles 31-17. They lost to the Chiefs 21-14. And even though Tua is statistically having this phenomenal season, I still go back to 2 weeks ago when you're up against the Chiefs, trying to make that second half comeback complete. You're driving, you underthrow Cedric Wilson Jr. by 10 yards, and then you fumble the final snap. The Dolphins, their apex, I think they could win a playoff game. Their speed kills. Their defense is getting good under Vic Fangio. But I don't, even in a year that's wide open for the AFC, look at this team as a contender because they showed me who they really were up against the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills. And finally, I had the Lions in Survivor yesterday. And there's only 16 teams remaining. And I'm thinking to myself, we're cooked. We're done. We're finished. This game is over. And there was a lot of people were on the Commanders yesterday. So like 6 teams got eliminated out of the 16. And I'm saying to myself, man, I can't believe the Lions. I waited so long to pick them in this phenomenal season. They're going to screw me. And in the final 3 minutes, just awesomeness happened. Jamison Williams. This team was down 26-14 with over 3 minutes to go. Jamison Williams, a 32-yard touchdown catch. The extra point was good. Defense forces a 3-and-out. David Montgomery caps off the drive with the touchdown. Then Goff finds Laporta for the 2-point conversion. And Aiden Hutchinson with the score of 29-26. He called game. Hit Fields, ball pops out. The offensive lineman kicks it out of the back of the end zone. And the Lions win 31-26. Here is the David Montgomery game-winning 1-yard touchdown run. This made it 27-26 to give Detroit the lead.
1st and goal from inside the 1 for the Lions. They trail by 5. Looking to take the lead here late. Goff is going to work out of the gun. Montgomery to his right. Jared leans in, takes the snap, hands to Montgomery, head down to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. They've got the lead back. David Montgomery against his former team. And the Lions, what a comeback. What a comeback.
I know a lot of people are going to say, yeah, they won the game, but I'm discouraged by the Lions. I'm not at 8-2. How many years have we seen the Lions be the team that chokes up that lead? And this is what good football teams do. They find a way to win when they don't play their best. And this team is 8-2. They have the Packers coming off a win on Thanksgiving on Thursday. They'll beat the Packers. They'll be 9-2. And their final games of the season are the Saints, the Bears, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Cowboys, and the Vikings. So good final 3 games of the season. But this is going to be a team. Eagles lose tonight. They got a chance to get the 1 seed. I think, and I said this earlier in the year, I believe the Lions are going to be the 2 seed. If you looked at that schedule and you just kind of saw the team that was developing, they got a great chance to be a top 2 seed in the NFC. All righty, that's your Week 11 edition of a No Huddle Offense. We'll take a break. Jeff Brohm back at home with Louisville as their head coach. And in year number 1, I know they got Kentucky this weekend, but they are off to the ACC championship game up against Florida State. The head coach of Louisville, Jeff Brohm, will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Jeff Brohm is back home at Louisville, and his football team is 10-1, coming off their latest victory in a thriller, 38-31 over Miami. Coming up this weekend, the rivalry showdown with Kentucky. And then Louisville is off to the ACC championship game where they will do battle with undefeated Florida State. Let's go out to the guest line right now and welcome in the head coach of Louisville. And that, of course, is Jeff Brohm. Coach, first off, congratulations. Appreciate the time. Thanks so much for it. And how you been?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Well, let me start you off with the game up against Miami from this past weekend. The final few minutes were mayhem with Coleman turning up the Jets. Then you guys have that big goal line stand, and then the Hail Mary by Miami comes up just short. When you're walking off that field after getting your 10th victory, knowing you're going to the ACC title game, just what were some of the emotions that you were experiencing?
Well, without question, we were really, really happy. It was a big win for us to go down to Miami and play a really, really talented football team. They were even more talented than I thought when I watched them in person on field. So, I thought we played pretty well for the most part. We hung in there. We showed some fight. We showed some toughness. We showed the ability to kind of overcome a few mistakes here and there. And to win in the end was just a great feeling. And I just think that, we wanted to try to get to that ACC championship game, not going in the back door. We wanted to do it our way and come out with a win. We hadn't won at Miami ever. So to go down there and to beat a really good football team was a big win for our football team.
I know that this is home for you, but you never know how year one is going to go, and you've been doing this for a long time. You got to build trust with your players, and the players have to believe in you. Why has this worked to this level this quickly here in year number one?
Well, I think, we don't try to overcomplicate things here. I think I try to be as real and as genuine as I can. I'm here with a purpose, and that's to try to help this football team win. I try to help this university, this fan base experience success. And because I live here and have to go home to it, I'm going to put everything I can into getting it done. And so I just think that I've tried to invest as much as I can. Our staff has done a good job, who also has a lot of ties to this area, this university. We understand the importance of trying to win and win right away. I think we've had some good players on our team from this past year. We tried to gel them with some new transfers and new additions, and we just try to do things the right way. We want to treat guys right, but we want to work hard. We want to find a way to win. We want to be creative in our approach. We want to think outside the box. We do everything in our power. And I think it starts from the head coach all the way down. Like, I have to do my job. I can't be a figurehead. I got to put the work in. I got to invest. I got to take the blame when things aren't going well. I got to be able to adjust and have answers to problems, and our coaches do as well. And then we kind of circulate that down to our team. I just think if our team is willing to work hard, identify our mistakes every week, whether we win or lose, and try to get better, and come out every week and try to improve and be really good at the small details, you're going to have a chance to win. And I just think for the most part, they've bought in. They've done a really good job. Without question, they enjoy winning. It's meant a lot to them, and I think it entices them and gets them to work even harder.
I remember, Jeff Brohm, I talked to Sonny Dykes last year when TCU was off to that 4-0, 5-0 start, and he even admitted he was a bit surprised how quickly things did come together. If I would have told you before the start of the season, going into the Kentucky game, you guys would have already had a trip booked to the ACC championship game, and you only would have one loss on the resume, what would you have said to that? Would you have believed it?
Well, you know what? I don't put anything past anything, but being new and not understanding the league, I wasn't for sure. I'm not going to lie, and I just try not to think too far down the road. I think if we just kind of take care of business, every day and do the best job we can and prepare and make sure we're adjusting and make sure that we're all doing our part, anything can happen. At the same time, there's a lot of games this year we could have easily lost. So, we're sitting here at this 10-1 point. We could have easily probably lost 4 or 5 of those games. But we did the small things, and we just found a way to get it done. So I just think you got to have a little bit of luck. You got to work. You got to work hard, and you got to try to keep guys healthy. And I just think things have bounced our way a little bit. We ran with it, and we got to continue to try to do that.
If you have success at your alma mater, there is nothing better than that. But you always know it could go the other way. So that's why sometimes guys are skeptical to take over the reins at a place that has meant so much to them. Why was the timing right? Why did you want this job when you elected to leave a good job in Purdue and go back to Louisville?
Well, I just have so many ties to this area. My family, I have a big extended family, and I owe a lot to this university and this city as well. Gave me a lot and supported me along the way. And I just think you always want to give back to people that have helped you get to where you're at. And I got a chance to kind of, make my way around the world a little bit, playing and coaching, and had an opportunity to come back here 4 years ago and decided not to. And I thought it was for the right reasons, even though a lot of people wanted me to and were a little bit angry when I didn't. But I just thought it was the right thing to do. And when it came around the second time, you know what? I just felt like I gave my all to Purdue for 6 years. We found a way to get starting with nobody in the stands and not winning many games at all to getting to a Big Ten championship game on our 6th year and going to multiple bowl games and winning a lot of big games. I just thought we elevated the program and got it back to a really good level where they can take it and run with it. And I just thought it was time to come back home. And while I was somewhat young, to give back and try to help this town, this university. And yes, correct. I mean, knowing that I live here and know so many people, you know, I knew the pressure was going to be on. Like, it's important that we win. It's important that we win now. It's important that we play a good brand of football that people want to come watch and be a part of. But that's the risk that you take. I mean, every time you step on the field, there's a chance you could lose. There's a chance you could win. And unfortunately, half the teams win and half lose, and there's nothing in between. You just got to figure out a way to get it done more often than not. So I really enjoyed the competitiveness of trying to get this done. Obviously, we still have a season left to play because I think we have a huge game coming up this week, and we got to try to win against Kentucky.
I know that you said, and I was reading this earlier today, that the Kentucky game's the most important game of the season. I understand it's rivalry week, but some people turn their heads in multiple directions when they hear that. They go, wait, what did he just say? Because you have an ACC championship game the following week and potentially a New Year's Six Bowl. So just go through the explaining for people that didn't understand your quote, I guess, from a few days ago.
Well, I'll explain it. Trust me, if you live in this city, if you live in this town, if you live in this state, this game's the most important game of the year. And, University of Louisville hasn't won this game in the recent past. And it's time that we try to find a way to win this game. This fan base wants to win against Kentucky. It's a rivalry that is probably more powerful than people think outside of this state. And we have to find a way to win. And so I just think you have to put importance in a rivalry game. In high school, I played in a big rivalry game with Trinity and St. X, two big schools. And I understand the importance of winning and what it means to the fans and what it means to in the offseason and what it means to the people on the team. A lot of this fan base with Kentucky and Louisville, they live next to each other, live in the same neighborhood. And I just think you have to put importance in that game. And, yeah, sure, when we get to the ACC championship and the bowl game, yeah, that's going to be extremely important as well. But there's no way we can look past this football game and not understand that this is the most important game of our season.
You know the relationships that you build when you do this. Florida State's having an incredible season. You guys will meet up, Jeff Brohm, on December 2nd for the ACC title game. But I was gutted for Mike Norvell and his program over the weekend when they lose their quarterback, their leader, Jordan Travis, for the season. Just how did you react to that when you saw that unfortunately unfold?
Well, it's very unfortunate. The last thing you want to do is see a devastating injury happen to anybody, especially probably one of the best quarterbacks in the country who's on an undefeated team. So, we wish him a full recovery. We wish their team the best. They've had an outstanding year. They had their backup quarterback step in, and they scored 58 unanswered points, and he's played a lot of football too. So I'm sure this team will rally behind that. They have a lot of really good football players on their team. So, you know what, we just really hope and pray that he has a full recovery and that he's able to continue playing at the next level because I think he's going to have a very successful career.
If you guys beat Kentucky and you beat Florida State and you get to 12-1, what would your pitch be to the College Football Playoff Committee about being one of the 4 teams that are left standing?
Well, I know how this thing works. I'm a football fan myself. I think that, for us, we got to take care of our business. There's other really good football teams out there, and I'm sure if they win, our chances may not be as good. But at the same time, you never know what's going to happen. This is rivalry week this week. There could be some upsets. So every week matters, and that's why it's important from a coaching and players perspective. You can't look beyond that. Fans can. They can see the future, and they can predict, and they can hope all these things. That's great, and we love it. But from our perspective, we have to take care of business here to have any chance to advance. And that's how you have to look at it. If you win, you advance. If you lose, then you're out of that mix. And so it's really important that we just kind of, really concentrate on this game, have a great week of practice, and try to beat Kentucky.
Well, Coach, appreciate the time. Your team has had a heck of a season this year. Good luck the next 2 weeks, and we'll see how far you guys can take it. Appreciate you doing this.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
There he is, Coach Jeff Brohm, joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And you never know, even with the guy that is experienced, like a Jeff Brohm, who was just the head coach at Purdue. Like Sonny Dykes had three jobs before he got to TCU. You just never know how year ones are going to unfold. And in this transfer portal era as well, things could change rather quickly. And to see in year one this team be 10-1, that's crazy. And also, if they go 11-1, 12-1, they probably don't get into the college football playoff. But it's amazing how no one's even talking about them, even though they're in the top 10, about having that possibility of going to the CFP. They're going to need a lot of chaos to unfold, and I think he even kind of understood that in the last answer that he gave. But you are a one-loss conference champ. It doesn't mean you necessarily get in, but you have a case to be made, especially with them. We'll see what happens after Tuesday, where Florida State falls after the Jordan Travis injury. But right now, Florida State is in the top 5, in at number 4, and you would take them down. So can't wait to see how this does unfold. Terrible news with Jordan Travis going down for the season for Florida State, with how much that I just love the way that kid plays the quarterback position. But you got a big one for Louisville fans up against Kentucky this week, and you already know, regardless of the outcome of that, they do have Florida State in the ACC championship. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We'll break. We'll come on back. We'll talk a little bit about the Lions being America's team and also give you a preview for the big game tonight to wrap up Week 11 in the NFL. It's a Super Bowl rematch between the Kansas City Chiefs as they do host the Philadelphia Eagles. But update time first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
And Week 11 concludes with that matchup. The 8-1 Eagles take on the 7-2 Chiefs in Kansas City. Both are coming off their bye weeks, rested and ready for a Super Bowl rematch. Jalen Hurts has 8 touchdowns and 1 interception over the last 3 games. This is the 7th Super Bowl rematch the following season. The team that had won the previous matchup in the big game is 5-1 in the following regular season meeting. Bills safety Taylor Rapp is okay after being carted off last night with a neck injury. The Jets are making a quarterback change. Tim Boyle will start Friday against the Dolphins. It is the 3rd different starting quarterback the Jets have used this year. The Braves have come to terms with reliever Reynaldo Lopez on a 3-year deal and are going to make him a starter. Lance Lynn returns to Cardinals on a 1-year deal. College basketball today, the Maui tournament right now. Gonzaga leads Purdue 25-21. Earlier, it was Syracuse with a big second half Tennessee with a big second half, defeating Syracuse 73-56. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Jim Rome here of Tuesday in the Jungle. Conversations with Texans linebacker Blake Cashman and Vegas Golden Knights head coach Bruce Cassidy. Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Jay in Erie, Pennsylvania says, Zach, with your Patriots being trashed this year, who's the NFL team that you're pulling for the most? You can submit a question by tweeting at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. It's easy. America's team, the Detroit Lions, led by Dan Campbell. Not the Dallas Cowboys. They're not America's team anymore. You can't be America's team when you haven't done jack since being America's team since 1995. So now we have a new America's team because now we need to root for a team that's been a loser for so long, and they have gone from the basement to starting to go into a 4-star hotel, and maybe by the end of the year they're upgraded to a 5-star hotel or a penthouse suite, because that's what the Detroit Lions are starting to do. They really are. This is a fun team. Jahmyr Gibbs is getting going. Amon-Ra St. Brown got the best of his brother yesterday. Sam Laporta's been a steal in this draft. Jamison Williams came alive yesterday. And defensively, I don't know if there's a more underrated defensive player in football than Alex Anzalone. And this dude shouldn't be overrated. Every week, he leads the Lions in tackles. He has great hair. He's a great story. He was good with the Saints, and he's even better now with the Detroit Lions. And he's one of those Dan Campbell culture guys. A lot of times people say culture, and no one never defines culture. But the message that Dan Campbell is preaching is carried through Alex Anzalone. And Aiden Hutchinson is an absolute game wrecker. He's a dog. He's a beast. He's an animal. And quite frankly, he should have been the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I would have picked a few players before I would have picked Trayvon Walker out of Georgia going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I love the Lions. Like, Stu, your team stinks, even though the record doesn't indicate that with the Raiders. But you know the Raiders are going nowhere. And they had a nice, fun 2 out of the last 3 weeks where they get victories up against crappy teams in the Giants and the Jets. But you're realistic. Stu's never going to tell you, oh, the Raiders are going to be great unless he actually believes it. I've never heard Stu actually think that the Raiders are going to be great. So if God maybe says to you, well, we don't have to get all religious here, but let's just say a bigger voice says to you, you don't have to root for the Raiders for the rest of the season. Who's the one team that you're pulling for? It's got to be the Lions, right?
It's got to be the Lions. I'd probably put Texans second, only because I kind of like the story, C.J. Stroud, all that. But, yeah, I would say Lions for sure, definitely the team.
Now, Samter, you're kind of like a Fugazi football fan. You go from being a Jet fan, then the Jets tortured you, so now you're jumping on the bandwagon of the Kansas City Chiefs, and your Chiefs play tonight. There's a reason why you're wearing red. It's not that you just got a free sweatshirt from one of the great Army-Navy events from the Army-Navy game. We all know that you're just wearing that red because you love the Kansas City Chiefs so much, and I'm sure it's killing you that you're not at the game tonight in Arrowhead and rock it out with the Chiefs Kingdom. But let's just say you were a football free agent, and you were not already made your mind that you were just going to latch on to the bandwagon of the Kansas City. How about those Chiefs? And you said, okay, I got to stab the Jets in the back after they stabbed you in the back for all those years. Out of all the teams in the NFL, who would the team that you would jump on their bandwagon if it can't be Kansas City, since you already hitch your wagon to the bandwagon of the Kansas City Chiefs?
Stu brought up a couple, but there really are a lot of really fun teams. But to your point, there's nobody that's just easier to root for than the Lions because of their history, because of their coach, because of their quarterback, because of Aiden Hutchinson. They're just a lovable team, right? Like even the Bengals, who've had a lot of down years. You know, there's things that you can like and not like about the Bengals.
But at least they were consistently in the playoffs, the Bengals. They just, with Marvin Lewis, would get to the playoffs and would never win a playoff game.
Right, but like historically, even before Marvin Lewis, the reason why it was great that they were getting to the playoffs was because people were in paper bags on their heads for so long because of that team.
Well, not only that, I forget who the linebacker was. It Takeo Spikes? I think he played for them. He once told me a story. When his jockstrap needed a new jockstrap, he went to the Bengals, and they, under the old regime, said, "Oh, you have to return the old jockstrap." And he even told me a story when Marvin Lewis first got there that they used to charge the players for Gatorades. Marvin Lewis said, "We're a professional team. We don't need to charge our players for Gatorades." So they brought in like the Costco size Gatorades, right, in great frequency. And all the players would take them home because they used to not be free. And he goes, "Guys, you don't need to take an entire case of Gatorade home. They're free now." So that used to be the standard kind of the Bengals. You need a new jockstrap. You got to return the old one. They used to make their players pay for the Gatorade.
That is a sad story. Hopefully things have changed there. But, yeah, I mean, like the Bengals, there's just a lot of teams that are easy to root for this year. But I don't think that there is a more likable, rootable team that I can remember in sports than these Lions.
Wow.
They are lovable. And it starts with Dan Campbell.
I think the three teams, if I had no skin in the game here, the three teams that are easiest to root for the rest of the way. The Lions, as you just mentioned. Now with Deshaun Watson out of the picture, the Cleveland Browns, for me, become very likable.
Nope.
And then the final team, it's actually the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, Josh Dobbs does help that. But you can't root for the Vikings and the Lions. They're in the same division.
Yeah, that's true. So if you had to pick one of them, Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, I'm going Lions 1.
Then
for
the
sure.
other team that you would consider would be the Texans, because that team, they survived the end of Deshaun Watson. Now, there were problems with the way that they treated Deshaun Watson towards the end, and then we found out more about Deshaun Watson, where it was like, oh, no one can actually defend that creep. He went from being someone we had sympathy for, and deservedly so, having no sympathy for Deshaun Watson. So there was a lot to unpack there. But that team the last 2 years, you knew they were hiring coaches that they never intended to actually be the guy, and they get one of their own in DeMeco Ryans. They draft C.J. Stroud, even though they probably, as John McClain would say, the general, that if they were honest, they would even admit that they preferred Bryce Young, but they got C.J. Stroud, and instantly in a year, they're 6-4, and they got a damn good chance to go to the playoffs. So, yeah, those are three or four teams this year that are just so easy to root for. And all those teams, like the Vikings, have had terrible losses throughout the years. The Lions have been just such a joke. The Browns have been just such a joke. And the Texans, I know they're a newer franchise, but the last few years, remember that creepy Jack Easterby, the character coach in New England, and then he became the most powerful person inside the Texans organization. It's absolutely bonkers. So there you go, answering the question. It has to be the Detroit Lions. Now, let's do a little preview on the game tonight. I do like the Eagles. I did plus, I think it was at plus 122, Eagles on the money line, plus the 2.5 as well. I think the Eagles are the play tonight. Both these teams, it's weird. I do think right now these are the two teams I trust the most in the NFL, but both of them, even at 8-1 and 7-2, and great problems to have, they have not played their best brand of football. The Eagles' offense can play better, and defensively they can play better. And for Kansas City, their defense has been so underappreciated this year, but their defense has been the best unit on this team out of the three phases of offense, defense, and special teams. And we have not seen a great Patrick Mahomes game this year up against a legit opponent, because their best offensive performance of the season was the 41 that they did hang on Chicago. But it's like, all right, who cares? It's the Chicago Bears, and that was the Chicago Bears back in week 3. So this offense has not popped to the way that we're used to it. And I'm not saying the Chiefs are vulnerable, because how many times do we have to say this? We did this song and dance last year. Oh, they lose Tyreek Hill. Oh, they look vulnerable. And right now, with how vulnerable people are saying Kansas City is, who's the other team in the AFC that you're really intimidated by? The Ravens? That's about it. Bengals now no, with Burrow out.
I mean, are you really that worried about the Bengals without Mark Andrews? Although they got good news.
You mean the
about
Ravens
him.
without Mark Andrews?
The Ravens, yes. They got good news that he might potentially come back this year, but still, it's not the same.
You know why? The Ravens have a kick-ass defense, and also Lamar Jackson doesn't fear anybody. And Lamar Jackson has taken down the Chiefs before in the regular season. Now, they've never met in the postseason, but Lamar is a game-changing player in the NFL and someone that's won a unanimous MVP. They are the second best team in the AFC. I don't think that's up for debate, but it's not as if there's these great options out there. The Dolphins could beat good teams. They can't beat great teams. The Jaguars, same thing, could beat good teams. They don't beat the great teams. You go around the AFC West. I don't like any of the other three teams after the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills, are they? I hear some people go like the Bills are maybe like the sleeping giant because they lost all these games and then maybe they pop back up if they just get in. I can't trust Buffalo. I used to be the biggest McDermott fan. McDermott's missing something. That defense is missing Milano and Tre'Davious White. I love the move at the deadline by Brandon Beane to get Rasul Douglas. So that was a sneaky move. But offensively, it's just been too much up and down. After one performance against the Jets where they were okay, I'm going to sit here and tell you that the Bills are back. That would be disingenuous. So it's a two-team race in the AFC. It's Kansas City and the Ravens until someone else takes that baton and runs with it for a good amount of time and shows they could do damage up against some elite teams. But I think these are the two best teams in football, Eagles and Kansas City. And what makes it scary for the rest of the league is we haven't seen either of these teams play their best brand of football yet. I know 49ers fans will say, what about us? What about us? What about us? Yeah, okay. You're in that conversation. You definitely belong. If the Eagles don't get to the Super Bowl, it should be the 49ers. The Lions may have something to say about this. But it is kind of crazy with all the hype around the AFC entering the season. There's three teams I feel better about in terms of getting to the Super Bowl. Where in the AFC, there's two teams I like to get to the Super Bowl, but I can't give you a third right now that I feel all that confident about. So long story short, I like the Eagles tonight. I trust their offense more than the Kansas City offense right now. And I think the defense will be able to make a championship play late. I think this is a close game. I think this is a really good game tonight. But I like the Eagles plus the 2.5. I like the Eagles to win the game outright. Stu, what's your play? I hate picking against Kansas City, especially in Kansas City, but I like the Birds tonight.
I do too. I think they're just playing better right now. There's just a little something missing from that Chiefs offense, so I think the Eagles in a close game get the better of them.
The leader of Chiefs Kingdom, I know who you're going, but tell me why you like Kansas City tonight.
The Chiefs are starting to roll right now. Travis Kelce is feeling it. I don't know if you saw, but Donna Kelce was getting a police escort into the stadium today.
And an endorsement on her shirt.
There are all types of momentum flowing in Chiefs Kingdom's favor.
No Taylor Swift tonight, though.
It doesn't matter. We will absolutely rock this game. The Eagles are good, but they are nowhere in our class. It's going to be at least a 14 to 17 point win.
14 to 17 point win?
Crush.
You are such a homer. I may double and triple down my bet now. I may throw some biscuits like Brian on this bet. That's how confident I am. All righty, we'll take that's the end of the show. I was going to say we're going to take a break. That's what happened to do 8 hours of radio yesterday. Trying to do 3 more today. We'll be back tomorrow. Good show for you tomorrow. Tommy DeVito's supposed to join us in addition to Drew Brees. Talk manana, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Peace.